The Mystara project is proud to present Part 17 of the Black Coast campaign. In the last episode, the PCs learnt that their prime suspect for the kidnapping of Princess Sylvia, Leq Cyc, had set off from Breaker's Reach some time ago for the town of Saphir, in the Endworld Spine mountains to the east. They are now heading to the Endworld Spine, with a bit of a detour, to help the 7-foot-tall barbarian, Jarl, to retrieve a fabulous treasure from the mountains. On the 22nd of Leaf Moon, being their second day of travel across the grasslands, 3 elves approach the party while they rest for lunch. The elves have come along the trail from the direction of Breaker's Reach. They introduce themselves as Fuelina, Zikandel and Laserian, wandering adventurers from Far Isle. Despite Brune's protests, and the suspicions of Timon, the party agrees to allow them to join them. For the rest of the day, the elves tell the PCs a little bit about the elven island of Far Isle, but seem very interested in getting to know the PCs. Brune ignores them, muttering under his breath the whole way. When setting up camp in the evening, Zikandel and Laserian rush back to the camp in a panic, exclaiming Fuelina has disappeared whilst they were collecting firewood. The PCs frantically search in the fading light, to no avail. They resolve to continue their search in the morning. During Bagol's watch, he wanders off for a comfort break at dawn. Suddenly, a dog starts barking savagely. Bagol turns to look, and sees the missing elf, Fuelina, charging toward him, as she in turn is being chased by the barking dog. On seeing that the whole camp has now spotted her, Fuelina surrenders, and her companions do likewise. They are bound and gagged and interrogated by Lemunda. As the party argues over what to do with the elves, they are suddenly ambushed by the ruffians they confronted in the alley of Breaker's Reach. Their leader yells, "Get the opals." His underlings slain, the ruffians' leader, Scut, surrenders. Jarl starts boasting of how he cleaved the enemies in two in an epic battle. Lemunda questions Scut. He says he works for no one and says all his gang members lie here slain. He was just after the opals, simple as that. Brune suggests they just slit his throat. Ambil and Bagol think they should just let him go, otherwise he will slow them down and have to be watched. Triac insists that they hand him over to the next caravan or local community they come across. With shock, Ambil notices that the elven prisoners have escaped whilst they were distracted with the ruffians. Their bindings are intact, the knots unchanged from how they were tied. Additionally, the red-striped dog is nowhere to be seen. Lemunda decides they will remove Scutt's armor, bind him and march him along in front of them. During the day, they hand Scut over to a merchant caravan and explain his crimes to them. The caravan leader agrees to take him to Breaker's Reach to face justice. The wagon driver, Skyscuz Tox, then asks Jarl which way they are going in the mountains. When Jarl tells him they are taking the narrow northern trail, Skyscuz advises the PCs that the wagon can only travel along the main tall stone pass trail. The PCs berate themselves for being so inexperienced at wilderness adventuring. Reluctantly, they pay Skyscuz and tell him to take the wagon back to Breaker's Reach. After an eventful day, the adventurers set camp on the verge of the Endworld Spine. The PCs awake the next morning on the 24th of Leaf Moon, having been drenched by a violent storm. The clerics meditate for their spells and then they head off into the mountains, which pleases Jarl and Brune. The party comes to a four-way intersection, as two narrow trails branch off to the north and south. As Jarl starts shedding on the northern trail, an old farmer approaches the party from that direction. He warns them that the storm has made the trail impassable. But they could take the southern trail, which is actually quicker. The PCs thank the farmer and decide to take his advice, despite Ambil and Timon's suspicions of the farmer. On the party's first night camping in the mountains, their sleep is disturbed by a distant, repetitive banging sound. Near dawn, Lemunda hears the movement of something very large about 90 yards away. She sounds the alarm to wake up the camp. The movement gets closer, until appearing at the edge of the campfire light is a giant woman with a huge sword. The giantess asks, in Black Coast Common, "What are you doing in my territory?" Before Lemunda can answer, the giantess spots Jarl's sword and says, "Give me that sword and I shall tolerate your trespass in my territory." Jarl clutches his sword tighter and the runes begin to glow as the sword starts chanting its battle song. Lemunda managed to persuade the giantess, known as Ophelia, to accept their gold coins instead, and the party promised to bring any iron ore they find to this area for Ophelia to take. On the 26th of Leaf Moon, the party enters a swampy valley. While resting, a red-striped fish suddenly splashes them with smelly swamp water. Jarl throws a rock at the fish and tells it to go away. The fish then disappears into the murky water. On the 28th of Leaf Moon, the party are surprised by a group of screeching baboons from the ledge above. The baboons try to look fierce and throw rocks to drive the party away. The party backs away and waits an hour for the simian group to pass. Timon says to Triac, "Perhaps one of us should meditate for speak with animals and nominate baboons." That night, whilst Brune and Bagol are on watch, a large group of red-skinned humanoids surprise the demi-human sentries. With the party surrounded, Jarl calls out to the sky, raising his sword, and a bolt of lightning tears through the orcish ranks. Terrified, the orcs flee in panic. As the party breathe a huge sigh of relief and tend to Ambel's wounds, they now know who caused that bolt of lightning in Breaker's Reach, charring 2 of the ruffians. Jarl and his sword had saved their lives, stuck somewhat out of their depths in this monster-infested wilderness as they are. This concludes Part 17 of the Black Coast campaign. To see if the party can survive, stay tuned for Part 18 of this series.